when I was the executive chef, there were 7 restaurants under me, which means 7 restaurant chefs were reporting into me.
Mhm.
And for me to work out the overall food cost of the hotel to, let's say, a 23%, I needed to make sure that, you know, not all restaurants will have 23% food cost. My specialty restaurants will run at a 34, 35% food cost, whilst my banquet will give me a buffer of 16 to 18% food cost,
Right.
whilst my other expense that I will kind of curtail will add on to making my food cost look better. So my simple question or simple ask to my chefs was that when they came with a store list which costed, let's say, 46,000 rupees, okay, I would ask them, what was the sale yesterday? He will say 1 lakh. I said, then you get a store of 23,000 rupees.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's special with me, Ketan Pandit. And our guest today is a very loved, admired, and respected person in the industry. Welcome to the show, Chef.
Hi, Ketan. Thank you so much for having me here. Very delighted.
Yeah, thank you for taking out the time. I know you're shuttling between India and Dubai. It can't be easy, but I couldn't think of anybody better to come and talk to us about the data and how it can be used in business. Tech companies long figured out, even insurance and financial companies long figured out that the value of the data in everyday operations is a great differentiator, right? But I think
Right.
restaurants and the food industry was a little slow to pick up. But you've been in this space for about 3 decades, just shy of 3 decades now, right? And I'm sure you've seen everything there is possible to see in this space. So
No,
I
I can tell you there is much more to see.
okay, that's very kind of you. What I'd like to understand is you're triced with data, right? At what point of time in your career did you realize that there's a lot more to the data that's coming in, and there's a lot more that can be done with it, especially for restaurants?
Yeah, so like you said that spent about 28 years in the industry, but at the same point of time, the whole understanding of data and analytics only started a few years back. Give or say about 7 to 8 years back, where we started really looking at data in a very different form in all
Right.
walks of life.
Right.
Whilst the restaurant industry, as you said, picked it up a little slower, is because we never thought that data could relate directly to proportional sales, or data could directly relate to customer acquisition, or data
Right.
could relate to directly to customer behavior, right?
Okay.
So I think when it came to customer behavior, hotels started to pick up a little bit of the understanding, because most of the hotel chains were using micros, and micros had this feature that if you were a repeat customer,
Mm.
you will be popped up and saying that repeat customer, because in hotel there was something which started about 14, 15 years back, which is called as GPS, was called as, I mean, I used to work with the Marriott at that time, and global personalization service was something that
Okay.
started to kick off. And in that, the whole idea was to have the preferences of the customer, and kind of have the data of who he is, where does he come from, what does he like, what does he do. So every time a chef met him at the coffee shop, he would greet him with name. He would say that, okay, I know that you are allergic to dairy. Can
Mm.
I fix you something right now for this, or maybe
Yeah.
for your dinner? Then he went to the Italian restaurant. People knew him. So it kind of made that personal effect to all the
Mm.
customers. But since I jumped out of hotels and came into restaurants, I realized that some of the restaurants were doing it much more sharply, and some of the
Okay.
restaurants were really intentional about
Mm.
taking data, and they're working with it. So I think if you talk about the whole journey that has happened in our country, in terms of hospitality and restauranting, it is
Mm.
now very well there. People are using data for every single analysis, whether it's consumer behavior, whether it's consumer order approach, or whether it's consumer
Mm.
spending powers, or whether it's
Okay.
even to understand which dish is working, which is not.
Um, you're working across the board with different kinds of businesses, right? Are you seeing a difference in the way they're using data, one, and in the way that they're using the data to make decisions, too?
Right. Yes. So for example, if we talk about more fine dining,
Hmm.
it is a more personalized approach.
Right.
So you will need to know your consumers, obviously your basics of, is he allergic to something when he's arriving? Is
Hmm.
he wanting something? Some people love privacy when they arrive in a restaurant, and they do not like waiters coming up and down to their table. So, even data like that,
Hmm.
or somebody who always comes and orders a particular drink, so those kind of data are used more on fine dining aspects. Obviously, if we go the other end of the spectrum,
Hmm.
whether it's a QSR or it is a cloud kitchen, they will obviously look at more of daily spends. For them, a consumer is a number; it's not a name. So
Right.
they say that we did 300 orders today at the rate of 700 per head,
Right.
and this much was the ordering for pizzas, this was the ordering for that. So they kind of analyze their data more on a bunch basis. But the interesting
Right.
part that comes out, in both these understandings is that if you look at the driving force for the data is really I mean, I am learning this not from the consumer or from the
Hmm.
system. It's actually the pole bearer. So, for example, I'll give you an example that I learned this through Zomato because one of our restaurants was not doing well on Zomato, and there were
Hmm.
very few orders coming. So we called on to the Zomato guy and said that, hey, what's happening? We are not we're spending enough money. We're giving you enough percentage back to you. Why is it that you're not getting orders? So he
Right.
says, sir, your algorithm, is not helping you. And your algorithm is not helping you because every time we punch an order for you, it is
Yeah.
above 13 minutes that you're taking to create the order.
Oh.
Yeah,
Okay.
so which means that in that 2 kilometer radius, if there are seven restaurants, and if one restaurant is from the time of order to giving it to
Right.
the delivery boy, if it is less than 9 minutes, you automatically hit a sweet spot in our algorithm, which means that you will be shown without even paying any money. You'll be shown on top of
Nice.
the ranks, and that is the algorithm. And
Right.
that led me thinking that if Zomato could build an algorithm like this to understand
Right.
that the order needs to be fast, quick. It does not matter what order is it, which means that I had to go back and I
Hmm.
can't say, hey, I'm not McDonald's. I cannot give you out a burger in 3 minutes.
Right.
But I have to go back and rethink that, okay,
Hmm.
what is the menu that I give for my delivery, which can be churned out in 9 minutes? So everything which was taking more than, 12 minutes per se, I had to remove, right? Now, whilst we say biryani is the most ordered thing on Zomato,
Right.
any biryani order, if it's cooked from scratch, cannot be made below 30 minutes.
That's true.
So, how can biryani be ranking the number one? Is because all the biryani places who are on Zomato or on any other delivery platform who know that we
Right.
are only business going to be biryani, they make pots and pans of biryani ready. So
Right.
it's like
Right.
tuck, tuck, tuck out.
Done.
So
Yes.
it is a very interesting thought process that your menu should revolve around your consumer rather than your consumer should revolve around your menu, in
Right.
these kind of spaces. Whilst the other way around, if you go to the other part of the spectrum, your consumer cannot move around your menu because he's paying the bills.
That's true.
So your menu has to go around the consumer. So it is literally who's paying the bills makes the decision.
Right. So it's interesting, right? Because legacy hotel chains like the Taj in India and the Sheratons across the world, they typically have always had this very customer centric approach to things. They know who you are, they know where you're coming from, they know a little bit probably about your family. And there used to be this one uncle, this maitre d', who would probably know that you're staying and this is what your kid likes, this is what your kid is allergic to. And I remember going with my dad, and they used to come and address him by name and ask me how I was doing. So at that time, and this is many many years ago, right? So at that time it was all human, and it was all very dependent on that one person being in the restaurant to deliver that kind of an experience, right? I remember this book by Will Guidara where he talks about, it's called Unreasonable Hospitality, and he talks about how they took 11 Madison from the bottom of the top 50 restaurants in the world to the top restaurant in the world. And they had these things, right, where they used to have a book of customer preferences and things like that. Very, very interesting. So now we have the advantage of data. But I still think that a lot of fine dining restaurants have a lot more potential, right? So if you take out the human element where you're dependent on one person knowing about a customer, how does this come into their workflow, right? Uh, Somebody makes a reservation. Of course, you can't just walk in, right? If they once they make a reservation, what happens from that point on?
Right. So you touched upon three very interesting topics. I'll take it one by one. So, firstly, to answer your question, is that once anybody makes a reservation, by the way, this is only a thing in the West or outside India where people do not go without reservations.
Hmm.
In India, everybody just comes without reservations. Table
Okay.
hai, so they will just land up.
True.
It's only 15%, 20% of people who still
Uh,
believe in picking up the phone and saying, hey, maybe I can reserve a table. So that is the biggest challenge, to be honest, for
yeah,
operations, because you can never be planned, in the way that you want to be planned. They're
right.
always leading up on the weekend with lines of people and all of that. But, and we're saying that, if somebody lands up, with a reservation, he's made a reservation, the guy comes in at 7 p.m. I'm going to do it both ways. So first we will look at the human angle. Uh, it lets the restaurant to prepare that Mr. Sharma is coming with his two sons. It
Hmm.
is his son's birthday and he's coming to celebrate his son's birthday. So as a restaurateur, should have a cake ready for him. If he's a very regular client, which I already know from his visits, the system has given me that this is his ninth visit. I would know that his general average spend is about 10,000 for the family, which means he's a good customer for me, which means I don't mind, since it's his birthday, to make his son feel special. So I'll probably, ask, because Mr. Sharma's son has never been to our place. So I'll probably call Mr. Sharma and say, hey, Mr. Sharma, would you please help me with the preferences that your son would like? I want to surprise him in something. What is the best thing he likes? So I'll
Right.
probably, make that dish ready. And when the son comes and he really feels delighted because this is a place which is making him feel special. Now, this is a
Yes.
human angle of the data that we have used. Now, the data angle of this is that I might have 7 birthdays like this in the restaurant at the same day. Now, how do I tackle that all of the 7 are not treated as a blanket pastry with happy birthday written, because that
Right.
just cuts off my thing of that I'm being personal with each and every customer. Now,
Right.
if I am a restaurant of that high cadre where I'm charging that much money, then
Hmm.
I must look at doing things in that manner. But
Right.
if I'm a busy restaurant which is churning out covers, then I'm okay to do that. So data will tell me that where am I standing in terms of my offering.
Hmm.
So if my data is telling me that, hey, this guest has only been here once and is probably coming a second time, I'll do something to enhance the service. But if
Yeah.
if it's a regular busy restaurant, then I
Hmm.
might not have the time
Of
to do
course.
anything about it. I recently stayed at the Suneva Fushi, and they go to the extent of finding out the fragrance of your bath soap. you know
Oh, wow.
what do you like, so they will give you 4 options,
Yeah.
and they have butlers to each room, so the butler will make sure that your night mist will smell this and your day mist will smell this. Now
Wow.
that is personalization to another level. Now,
Yeah.
how does that help us in data? Is because every guest that visits there, and probably I went there for the first time, but I met up with at least 7 to 8 families who had been using Soneva every single holiday.
Hmm.
So they don't really have to use their brain when they're booking their holiday, because everything is sorted. When you're coming to have a break, my friend is the global general manager for that group, and he said that I want to make sure that people stop using their brains when they're on a break.
Yeah.
They don't have to think that what soap will I use. This is not mine.
Yeah.
So it's thinking to that level. So
Right.
I guess I've answered your question, and to break it down into parts, that data can be used as data, but in
Yeah.
our industry, data can never be used as data because we're dealing with human beings.
Absolutely. And I love the fact that you also mentioned that if you have the data that tells you something, and in case of a fine dining restaurant, which doesn't probably have 7 birthdays in an evening. It's all right not to automate that, or put a machine driven system behind it. It's absolutely okay to put a note, pre meal prep, announce that this is happening, or there's a birthday or a special occasion. But for larger restaurants, I completely get it, right? And and more restaurants are realizing it, so they ask you. Sorry, I lost you for there. Yeah, so they ask you what's your phone number, what's your birthday, and then you'll get a nice cute message on your birthday. So I like that level
Right.
of personalization. It's not personal, but yeah, somebody remembered you. Yes.
Yeah. Now, again, one more aspect to this is that I recently visited one of my restaurants whose sales were low,
Mm-hmm.
and I asked the manager, "How's your daily calling doing?" And
Okay.
this guy was a new manager. He said, "Daily calling means?" So I
Mm.
said, "Well, aren't you storing data every day of who's coming, when is their
Right.
birthday, when is their anniversary?" "Yeah, we're doing that." I said, "So what are you doing with that data?" He
Mm.
said, "Nothing."
Oh, okay.
I said, "Wow, that's you're sitting in a gold mine and you're doing
Mm.
nothing. You have 6,000 people." I said, "But I can't call 6,000 people." I said, "I'm not asking you to call 6,000 people. You divide the 6,000 people amongst four people in the restaurant. Everybody makes 20 calls these days. That's 80 calls in a day. And if you have 6,000, probably arrive
Mm.
with speaking to all of them in probably 2, 3 months. Now, the whole idea is, what are you going to speak to them about?"
Yeah.
So your number one priority is that today is the 21st of November. My
Mm.
system should have a pop-up that 21st November, these people are celebrating their birthday or anniversary,
Right.
or the next week. I'm
Yeah.
planning it in such a way. I'm calling them, "Hey, Mr. Sharma, it's your anniversary.
Mm.
What are you planning to do? You know
Yeah.
what? I got a special table for you,
Yeah.
and I'll do a nice bottle of wine and a cake for you. You don't need to worry." Now, as a husband, I'm thinking where to take my wife for a meal, and I have the capacity to buy something which costs. Who am I going to put my money on to? Number one, somebody who's bothered about me. Number two, who's who's quick. जिसका कॉल पहले आया मेरे दिमाग में बैठ जाएगा.
Of course.
Right,
Of
this
course.
guy, so this guy approached me. It's a nice restaurant. I've been there. Hey, chalo, let's make that plan. So data says that if I make 100 calls, 10 people will probably think of coming to me. 2 people will come to me, which means a
Wow.
2% turnaround. Right?
Wow.
Which
Yes.
means that it's a tough journey ahead. If I have 6,000 people, do I have
Absolutely.
database, I will only have 60 people turning around. But those 60 people, I can make them into super loyals who will go and speak to seven more people. That's 420 loyal customers that I have the opportunity to make only because I'm connecting with them. Now,
That's right.
this is how I can use my data. I remember a conversation that I was having with you,
Mm.
and I got that insight that let's create a chart of understanding. If you have to launch a new dessert, let's only target those people who are going to eat dessert, because
Yeah.
60% of people are not eating dessert. So let's only target the 40% people.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
said that's smart, because you're actually analyzing your data with a human touch. You're not just blindly just
Yeah.
saying that there you go. This is
Absolutely.
data. Do whatever you want to do with it.
Right. And there are so many ways to look at that segment, right? So people who have not visited for say 30 days or 45 days, or somebody who used to come every week or every month for one business meeting. So
Right.
so you haven't come around for a long time. Is everything okay? I mean,
Yeah.
you're not calling them just for business, but yeah.
Yeah. You're making that personal connect.
And I think that goes a very, very long way. And I think a lot of these chains that have grown, they've done a fabulous job around it.
Right.
Awesome. So, okay. So my next question is around data, and somebody's getting started on this journey, right? Uh, um, what data points, let's say top three data points, top four data points, they need to look on a daily basis. What would you recommend that be?
Yeah, so again, this has to be divided in both front of the house and back of the house, right?
Hmm.
Because end of the day, we are running a restaurant, which is a business. So we
Yes.
can't just look at only the human touch and the goody things, but we also look at, is every factor of mine making money or not?
Hmm.
So the data points that, as a restaurateur, I must look at is number one, what my sales matrix is, right? So
Hmm.
if I have had a budgeted sale of 150,000 for the last night, but I've only made 75,000,
Huh.
it's concerning because it's 50% of my sales that was budgeted. So either my budget was wrong, or
Hmm.
something went wrong yesterday. What happened? So that gives me an understanding of why I need to go down and find out what happened. Why did we not make the sales yesterday? So
Hmm.
then we realized that, oh, yesterday was election day in Mumbai. That's why a lot of people were home and didn't want to come out of
Right.
the restaurant. So then you realize that, oh, when you made the budget, you didn't keep that in mind. So there was a
Right.
mistake. So you make a mental note and a physical note on your system that, okay, look at holidays, not just as holidays, but also as government things where you may not be able to serve alcohol for 12 hours in a day and you lose
Hmm.
money, right? So
Hmm.
so the whole idea is that you understand your sale point. You also understand your, if you're talking about daily basis, you also want to understand who were the kind of people who visited your business. I mean, was there anything exemplary? You may or may not be in the restaurant that evening. So if I want to know that, oh, Kapil Dev came to my restaurant last night, but nobody knows, right? So, Kapil Dev is a big example, but let's say, Mr. Chaudhary, who always comes and, is a repeat customer who was there. So, you also kind of relating that kind of a data. The third data is your sales mix that you need to have with your F&B manager and your chef is because to understand that how your production is happening.
Hmm.
So if your sales mix for on a everyday basis is not checked and not monitored, then you're just producing blindly, 10 portions of everything every day,
Yeah.
right? A
Right.
Monday is different than a Friday and then a
Right.
Saturday. So on a daily basis, this is a daily thing that you got to check that, hey, why are you prepping so much? Today's a Monday, we're going to be hardly busy.
Right.
So that's where a lot of restaurants start losing money because they say, कि नहीं, इतना तो हमारे पास होना ही चाहिए.
Right.
There's no rule book in saying. Some restaurants do really good business on Mondays. Some restaurants do not do good business on Monday. So you will know where you are, which market you're in, how much busy you are. Accordingly, your production has to be there. If you're in a business bay, you might be shut for Saturday, Sunday, but you can be super busy from Monday to Friday. But the other way around, if you're on a high street, then the opposite works.
Weekends
So
are
these
busier.
are yeah. So these are certain things in the back of the house. In the front of the house, you obviously want to know your sales figures, what kind of discounting went out, because a
Hmm.
lot of restaurants start losing money where the manager or somebody in the front of the house is not loyal or is not working with integrity and passed out discounts ABC, and basically it's money gone, or certain KOTs, which is kitchen order ticket, is voided, but you never know that the money would have been siphoned inside as cash and the order would have been voided. So these are the things, set points that one would want to look at to make sure that there is no siphoning or no theft
Hmm.
happening in terms of this thing. And also, a lot of restaurants which are busy bars must look at a daily inventory of their bar.
Daily inventory of the bar. Okay. And so I'm sure for somebody starting, looking at data may not, and I'm not saying that it's not, may not be the biggest priority because they're focusing on survival. And I think survival begins with looking at your data and your expenses and things like that. Um, is there a system that you use in place? And I don't mean a tool or a platform. I mean, is there a system that you use that you've scaled successfully?
So the thing is that end of the day, I am a artisan. I'm a person who creates, and but at the same point of time, I'm also when I was working for a hotel, I was taking care of somebody else's business. Now I
Mm-hmm.
take care of my own business and also some people's business. So I can't say that, hey, I'm just an artisan. I don't care about the numbers.
Right.
I have to be accountable to what I am doing. So
Yeah.
when we do not have hi-fi systems like what we have today, it used to be a basic plain Excel sheet of what came in and what went out.
Yeah.
Right. Today also, if I may, humbly say that mm, kind of 45 to 50% restaurant owners still work on this platform. What came in, what went
Mm.
out.
What
They
went
have
out?
nothing in between. They
Yeah.
don't know, right? So which means that there's a huge opportunity in our country to get people to understand that data is important. Then comes a time where we were working with high end software platforms where we are understanding a lot of data points and
Mm.
mechanics to kind of break down our thought process in terms of sales profitability as well as guest uh, satisfaction. Now, obviously, I'll have to name some platforms because to draw a comparison. So
Sure.
today we have, let's say, for example, Pet Puja. Now,
Right.
Pet Puja is a very simple, सुलझा हुआ, sorted kind of
Yeah.
a platform which a lot of small restaurants can easily use. It is less on your pocket. Um, you will any which ways have to buy your hardware from outside, so it gives you more with less money.
Hmm. No problem. You're back. Paid puja.
Yeah, yeah. The problem that possibly, I'm not saying paid puja, but any of these data points is
Mm-hmm.
that they might not be able to give you a fleshed out data of, for example, if I have to today I'm making that one restaurant, but tomorrow if I have to do a pizza chain, I need to know that, to make a pizza successfully over 1,000 pieces without any wastage, this is the amount of tomato sauce that I will use, right?
Right.
Because every pizza has got a standard recipe which
Mm.
is entered inside the system, but the hands that are making don't operate through a standard recipe. So there's always a flaw of 4 to 5%, which my system needs to take care of. That needs to be integrated to my buying, which means how much tomatoes I've bought, which that needs to be integrated to the recipe of the tomato sauce, which means that a 1 kg of tomatoes will give me 800 grams of tomato sauce. 800 grams of tomato sauce will give me 20 pizzas. So which means that 1 kg of tomatoes is equal to 20 pizzas. Now, how am I using this data effectively? Did I receive rotten tomatoes? Did I receive bad tomatoes? Why is that I bought 100 kgs of tomatoes, but I did not produce 2,000 pizzas, right?
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
that relatability can come in when you look at data in those chunks. Now,
Right.
that is something which maybe today I think Pet Puja is working very fast to make them more and more functional. But smaller restaurants don't go into that detail.
That's
They
fair
are
enough.
saying कि हाँ कितना आया कितना गया मेरे को बिल लिए दिखा दो कि चोरी नहीं हुई, right? So
Uh,
that I've got everything in place, all my supplies in place,
yeah.
सब चीजें आ रही हैं, recipe आ गई, but I'm not using that data to actually channelize that this information can actually go down to my lowest commie for my training needs, right?
Yes.
I will know sitting in my office in Delhi that
Mm.
my store in Nagpur is doing some gochi with tomato sauce.
Mm.
So I can just go call the manager and say there's something wrong with your tomato sauce. So what's
Yeah.
wrong? The quantities don't match up. Find out what the chef is doing. Either he's throwing out too much tomatoes, or he's receiving bad tomatoes, or his yield is not right. So all the manager will have to do is just go to the kitchen, stand with the chef, and say, "Let's make tomato sauce," and he will know. He doesn't need to know the story left, right, center, forward, and he will know exactly what went wrong. So this is
Right.
how we probably catch mistakes in a larger organization where there is only one SKU tomato sauce that I'm talking about,
Yeah.
but there are 1,000 things that happen on a daily basis. So how do
Right.
you keep a control over what went right and what went wrong?
And so this is one question of fixing mistakes, but there's also a lot of opportunity to improve efficiencies.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Now, when you talk about efficiency and taking the same example,
Hmm.
if my data tells me that uh, out of the 100 pizzas that I served, 10 people actually said your sauce was more
Okay.
in the feedback,
Yeah.
which means that I have 10 people to talk to and
Mm.
understand why did they say the sauce was more. Maybe the 90 did not even bother, but the 10
Yeah.
people have bothered to respond back to me.
Yeah.
So I will rework my recipe, reduce 10 grams of sauce, send them again this pizza. A, I'm building a loyal customer base. B, I am understanding कि actually 100 ग्राम डालने की जरूरत नहीं थी, 90 में काम हो रहा है. So
Yeah.
over a span of 1,000 pizzas,
Yeah.
I'm actually saving money. So
Yeah.
one is efficiency in terms of what you can do. The other part of human efficiency also can be increased. So like I said, Monday can tell you how much pizza bases you should have. You
Yeah.
should not have 100 bases. Today is Monday. You're
Right.
okay with 50. तो क्यों
Right.
बना रहे हो? बनाओगे waste होगा, all that.
Yeah.
So again,
Yeah.
yeah.
So with the data, the catch is कि जब तक आपके पास sizable data नहीं आ जाता, you're not able to make those kind of decisions, right? So do you think a business that is just starting, do you think 2 months or 3 months is enough time for them to gather data, or smaller windows also work?
No, so this is always a catch-22 situation, Ketan, because smaller restaurants at one point are reeling to establish the business, to make the business work and run. On the other
Right.
hand, the data is not supporting them really because there is hardly any data. And
Yeah.
whenever we open a new restaurant, we tell the restaurant owners that please do not look at the food cost in month one, even in the month two. Month
Mm,
is where you actually get your right food cost because of
mm,
multiple reasons. Number one is when you're opening a restaurant, you want to do a full purchase cycle of finding out three best suppliers in the city who will
okay.
give you timely supplies, who will give you supplies with on quality and as well as on the price. Right now, these three matrices have to be ticked off for me to get my supplier. Now,
Right.
my supplier today is giving me onions at 20 rupees a kg, right? Suddenly, onion prices go skyrocketing.
Yeah.
That is gone out of the window. The supplier can't help me. But if I'm a large intake person
Mm,
who has been taking 1,000 kgs every day, my supplier dare not touch my pricing because he knows कि मेरे को today I am taking the ghata, tomorrow he will give me the fayda.
right.
So again, that's a catch-22 situation. For newer restaurant, will always get the brunt of it because our supplies are going to be limited.
Yeah.
So our data is going to be limited. Our number of people who have eaten out of our hands will be limited. So
Yeah.
for a restaurant to actually see data and start working with it, you need at least a 90-day, running ground.
Right. Right. So that, uh, okay. That's a very, very helpful tip. You mentioned something about feedback, and I'm going to put a pin on it right now because I want to come back and talk about it in a lot more detail. You spoke about menu engineering, right? And I did not know that Zomato looks at the time that it takes to accept an order, for instance, to see how efficient a restaurant is. In hindsight, yes, it's obvious, right? Um, a lot of restaurants are dependent on Swiggy's and Zomatos and third parties for the order that comes in, right? Um, how can restaurants use data? See, because they will not have access to the data that Zomato and Swiggy have, but they will have access to a person who manages their account. What kind of questions should this person be asking their Zomato or Swiggy rep?
Right. So I think the beautiful part about data, and I was watching Kapil Sharma's show the other day when Dipender Goyal was there,
Yeah,
and he made a joke. He said, "What a life! Order बनाए कोई और, serve कोई और करे और मैं दीपेंद्र गोयल ऑफिस में बैठा हूँ." So that is what he's built really. So
yeah,
the thing is that data is also in such a way that if you actually start using your brain, you don't need to talk to too many people. So
right.
first of all, your data will say that in my sale of my month, which my budget was supposed 30 lakhs, right? I had budgeted a sale of 15 lakhs from Zomato and Swiggy
Hmm,
from online platforms, but
right.
I'm sitting at only 5 lakhs. So
Yeah.
number one question, I'm not going to ask Swiggy and Zomato. I'm going to ask myself, did I number one make a wrong budget?
Hmm,
Number two, what went wrong in the whole thing? So then my second step is to call the Swiggy Zomato guys and say, guys, you know what? I had budgeted for 15 lakhs, but I've not even touched 5 lakhs. So where do you think the gaps are? So then they will be able to help you because what I have seen in my experience that since most of the restaurants are dependent on Swiggy and Zomato also have those kind of people working in the system who will handhold you for the first 3 months to say
hmm,
that okay, what is working for you, what is not working for you. It is about now you ask me what questions to ask. So number one question to ask is that what is stopping my sales, right? Or what is not giving that sales boost. So they
hmm.
will give you exactly that. The one thing that I learned that day was that maybe my kitchen is not functional enough to give out the orders well. The other part, I think, what questions is that in the vicinity, they have data of what is being ordered the most, which means that if
Right.
I am serving, for example, just for the example's sake, a French dish, whilst my market segment is all biryani, right? So
Hmm,
maybe I'm sitting in the wrong place because Zomato will only take 5 kilometer radius and
yeah,
target that. So in my 5 kilometer radius, अगर सारे चटोरे बैठ रहे हैं, then I might as well open a chaat shop. I'll probably
yeah,
do well rather than serving chicken fricassee. So
right.
that is another data that you can get out that what am I serving the right dishes? Is
Yeah,
my menu being? And the third question you need to ask is that hey, can you give me a possible solution of how to boost my sales? And that is the question they really love because that is where they can pitch their advertisement
yes.
business right on top. It works well both ways. For a restaurant, I recommend that the first 3 to 5 months, they must spend on bumper ads, they must spend on visibility ads. because if you're in Koregaon Park and restaurants near me don't feature you, or the new restaurant doesn't feature you, then you are losing the business already. But
Hmm.
who is getting featured are the people who are either in the business already for a long time, they have a good Zomato rating, or people who have spent some money for visibility ads, which means that Zomato will make sure that when you punch restaurants near me of XYZ, your name is being featured. So
Right.
that is where I need to be kind of, so we can't get away from the fact that, oh, I don't want to spend on marketing. I'm a good product. While
Right.
be happy about it, and stay good about it, because you will take time, but you will
Yeah.
become what you will become, right? I'm sure Haldiram, Gasita Ram never spent money on Zomato and found the rating to go higher because they
Yeah.
were in the business in the last 25, 30 years. So they have
Yes.
had the muscle to stay, and say, "Ki, okay, I will stay. People will come to know me. I don't care about anybody else." So either you have that muscle, or if you're a smaller business, you don't have time, because every day your salaries, your rentals, your food costs, everything is piling up. And you better start making money back to cut off the losses. So it's like a catch 22 situation again, that
Right.
you've got to do your marketing, but where you spend your marketing money is very important. So my recommendation is spend it with these guys, because these are going to give you the return back.
Right. So I was just talking to Vibhanshu Mishra. He runs a bunch of restaurants. They actually scaled from zero restaurants to about 200 plus in the last 3, 4 years. And he was telling me that, if you open up Zomato and you're just looking to order, say, Hakka noodles, Zomato will tell you there are 1,600 or 1,700 restaurants around you that are delivering this. So the space is very crowded, and not marketing probably works for somebody who's been in the business for eons, 50, 60 years, and people know their standard यहाँ से मंगाना है. But for somebody who's starting on, it's not a choice.
Right. If I may give you another very relatable example, right? The mistakes that I have done with my own self. So I
Uh,
opened a YouTube channel, right? And I named it the Big Daddy Chef. I had a good spiel about it, that why the Big Daddy Chef, this is why I think the Big Daddy Chef should work. And I am written the Big Daddy Chef Ajay Chopra. Now in my mind, I'm thinking that, hey, this is Ajay Chopra, who people know from MasterChef, and he's
right.
opening a channel, Big Daddy Chef, and his YouTube channel must work. 6 months later, I had to rethink, because nothing was working. And that is when I met someone who really could show me the mirror and says, when somebody comes to YouTube, forget who that person is. When somebody comes to YouTube, what does he search? He searches a topic, right? If he is wanting to hear politics, he will search politics. He will not search
Yes.
News 24.
Yes.
He will search news on politics. If he wants to search food, he will say butter chicken. He doesn't care who Ranveer Brar is, who Ajay Chopra is, who is who. He doesn't care because he doesn't know. Right now, in this crowded market, you got to be very specific in what you want to achieve. So, if you're punching butter chicken, then your butter chicken should be rating high. How do you rate your butter chicken high? Number one, make the greatest dish. Number two, spend some money on your ad so that you're rated high. You will be seen. I said, wow. Now, if butter chicken is seen, and if I am seen with the butter chicken, then the numbers start increasing.
Amazing.
I think
Yes.
that's where the whole thing is, that you got to know where you want to put your money, right? There is a dearth of places, which you can put. There's so many of them, but
Yeah.
to make a precise point, if I'm a biryani seller, I need to be seen biryanis near me, best biryani in the city, blah, blah, blah. Everything to do with biryani, I should be rating high. So I should be sitting with the Zomato and the Swiggy guys and say, hey guys, this is what I want to spend money on. Put my money here. They would know.
I mean, fantastic, right? So again, back to data. There's no going away with it. And one thing that stayed with me from Vivanshu's, again, his episode, was that if you start with not knowing data, that's fine. But by the end of it, you better love it.
Yeah,
Otherwise, you will
right.
be forced to love it.
Yeah,
Awesome.
absolutely. So, yeah.
No, no, go ahead, go ahead.
No, I'm saying absolutely. This is a nugget which I think everybody should understand. A lot of chefs, this is a little away from what we are talking, but I see a lot of chefs who have entered into business. Some of them have done well, some of them are not,
Yeah,
because as chefs, we love our craft, we don't love the numbers. And
yeah,
numbers is equal to data, and data is equal to business, and business is equal to end of the day what's coming to your bank.
yeah.
So, so it is all relatable, and you can't get away from one aspect of it and say, hey, I'm going to cook the best day we see. Yeah, great. But jungle mein mor nacha kisne dekha? So you
That's
need
true.
to obviously promote it, and promotion needs money, and money needs understanding. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it comes back to data. I'll start loving your data, guys. There's no other choice. Okay, so feedback, right? One of the most critical aspects of knowing what is working, what is not. We've seen different types of feedbacks. Somebody is coming and asking you, sir, kaisa laga? Somebody giving you a form to fill right there. Somebody sending you a QR code to fill later. And typically, हमारी फितरत ही ऐसी है कि we will say things when we don't like them. कुछ सब्जी में नमक कम होगा, then we'll shout. We will not say that, oh, the naan was so fresh and hot. We are not wired like that. Um, how are you approaching the whole feedback process and the data that you get from it? Because if it's just sitting there, it's of no use to anybody.
right. So I think it is the most critical part after your revenue resources.
Hmm.
What you're earning is not by chance. What you're earning is going to be multiplied only because you are working on your feedback. And I'll give you a very different example. So I started working with a Japanese company recently, and if I tell you the name, a lot of these restaurant owners will say, "Arey chef, how can you?" So the name of the company is Ajinomoto.
Hmm.
Okay, and for a lot of us, it's a taboo to use
Yeah.
Ajinomoto. First of all, Ajinomoto is not a product; it's a company, right? The product is monosodium glutamate, and monosodium glutamate is available in mother's milk. It's available in mushrooms, tomatoes, everything. Come to the point, I was so impressed by these guys because they make about 350 odd products, and one of their product is a very good corn soup that they make for Nor. And they have a big company in Japan where they produce this, but
Yeah.
since Southeast Asia it was becoming very popular, so they opened another factory unit in Thailand, and obviously they were trying to produce the corn from there. So um, in one of their crop, I'm just giving an example, if that 1 hectare was to give 100 kgs of corn to them, it only gave 92 kgs. And that led the Japanese to think that, hey, my God, 8 kgs down per hectare is a lot of corn lost. Now, what do
Hmm.
I do with this data? Right? A normal company would just change the field.
Yeah.
What they did was they came with scientists back and worked on the soil enrichment of that field, and they got 101 corn in the next crop instead of
Wow.
100. So
Yeah.
what I'm trying to say is that your data can be a minefield where you can either use it as coal or you
Yeah.
could use it as gold. So what Ajinomoto did was they used it as gold
Yeah.
because they said that, hey, a soil is a soil is a soil. What can go wrong with it? We'll find out what the soil is wrong, not
Yeah.
what the problem is with the temperature or the monsoon and this and that. Those are uncontrollable. We can't control those things. But what we can control are the controllable aspects in a business. And that is where it brings me to this point where what is controllable? If my food is not served hot, controllable. If my
Yeah.
food is not served with the right seasoning or the right, taste, controllable. But what is not controllable is on a Saturday afternoon, I have 300 people walking up to my restaurant and, they've waited for 1.5 hours and after they're already pissed off. And when they enter my restaurant, the first dish they eat is like, bakwas, I'm going off because he's already pissed off. Right. So now that data, I know that this is a non controllable issue. It could have been just avoided by human touch, just avoided by human touch by just saying, I'm so sorry you have to wait for 1.5 hours. I'll make your food really quick. But can I ask you that, would you have this, and this? And then your food comes. You're changing perception of that customer. So you're basically taking off a complaint. The second part is that let a complaint not become data,
Okay. Interesting.
which means that if it becomes data, it's going to haunt you.
Yeah.
If the guest is still in the restaurant, which means there's still an opportunity to heal him.
Yeah.
Every human being can be healed. Okay. And I'm sure these are restaurateurs listening to us. Buy an extra dessert, buy an extra cocktail, buy a 25% discount, by sometimes comping the meal, by sometimes giving just another dish. Guests can be healed, or sometimes by just saying sorry or
Yeah.
talking to them. The moment these things are done, Nobody will go back and write a Google review. Nobody will go back and write a Zomato review. And that is where it won't become data.
Right.
And like you said, we are wired to only write the negative stuff. It is what you are wanting to avoid. If for everything that you want to avoid
Right.
a negative data review. So
Right.
that is my philosophy of running restaurants. Jab tak hai jaan, make sure that your guest does not leave the restaurant unhappy. And
Yeah.
we have actually taken time and effort to, make sure that we go on physical clues. What Nobody is going to come and say, "Hey, I'm pissed off." Nobody's going to come and say. If you're pissed off from something, you'll either walk out, right, or you will have given me at least three clues, which my waiters and my captains or managers have not picked
Right.
up, right?
Right.
So I need to look at those clues that when he's looking around, a bit disgruntled, the manager should catch that. So you should catch those clues. If you catch those clues, you get to know. When you're going and serving, you just have to ask the question, is everything okay right now? That's question, it's an open-end question which will let somebody say, no, actually not. And that's your
Yeah.
opportunity to change it. Somebody asked right now, what about delivery kitchens, right? Now, great.
Mhm.
About delivery kitchens, you're only read by feedback. So unfortunately, you don't have the human touch. So you will have to, understand that if a customer has given a complaint, what are you doing to that customer, not to the portal? Another example I'll give you that, my phone number, I don't know how it flashed on the internet for a while, and I had no idea about it. And I get a call at 12:30 in the night. I am in some city somewhere, and Plaka, Bangalore, which is a restaurant. There was a
Mhm.
guy who ordered a Zomato order at 11:30 and did not get his order till 12:30. He got so upset, he called me. He did not know he
Wow.
was calling Ajay Chopra. And I said, yeah, how can I help you? This is Ajay. So he did not know that it was me speaking, but he was just pleasantly surprised of how I handled that query for him. Because at
Mm.
12:30, I called the manager. I said, "This is the order. This is not reached him. Can you please find out quickly?" In the next 15 minutes, I got an answer from the manager. I called him back and I said, "Hey, listen, really sorry, your order got mixed up with somebody else. And that's why it has not arrived. It's too late now. I cannot do anything. I'm really sorry. But tomorrow, can I either send you a full order from my side, or can I invite him to the restaurant?" And he was so delighted. He said, "I have another party tomorrow. It's okay. Things happen." Next day, when we recovered that guest, he was just all over the place talking about me and said, "Hey, thank you," because
And
it just is the human touch. End of the day, which can make data work.
and he would have definitely gone and told 10 or 15 of his friends that this is what I experienced. I spoke to the chef. And yeah, I think it's just that service mindset is put into action. Everybody talks
Right.
about it, but I don't know how many would have done what you just did.
Right. Now, I'll give you another example. Ola and Uber, both in India, initially had a feedback sent to all the people who had a ride, and the
Right.
one of question was your car clean? You know what?
Interesting.
They stopped sending that questionnaire because they realized that we are dealing with drivers who would never clean their cars.
Right.
It was a very Western thing, which they were just copy pasting. So that's another thing, that you can't just take copy pasting from Marriott review form to a restaurant review form. It's just not chalk and apple to apple. It's chalk and
Yeah.
cheese. So
Yeah.
Indian drivers, why are they driving the car? What is their motivation of driving the car?
Yeah.
All that matters to get that feedback. Now you sit in an Ola Uber, you never want to ask that question because you know कि ये तो साफ करेंगे ही नहीं, तो पूछना ही बेकार.
That's true. That's true. Okay, fantastic. Something that you mentioned early on was talking about operations and inventory and the buying cycle and all. Um, where do you think what is the role of data on a day-to-day basis when you're doing say inventory?
Yeah, I think we've touched upon this in a bit, but we'll elaborate this a bit more. That for my back of the house, data is the only thing that I will work upon. So you have to really work like a shopkeeper, because end of the day, it is your business, and money lost is money gone,
Yeah, definitely.
right? And to make sure that now this was not just a job which I was doing sitting on a seat where people could curse me because I was only cutting their stores. but I was actually going on the shop floor then and helping them to understand कि listen buddy, you don't need to cook 8 kgs of mutton right now,
Yeah.
right? तुम इसलिए बना रहे हो क्योंकि तुम्हें थोड़ा काम बच जाएगा,
Hmm.
right? काम मत बचाओ ना, पैसा बचाओ.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes
काम
sense.
काम
Sense.
तुम रोज काम करने के लिए आते हो, you come every day, you get paid every day, right?
Right.
I'm not going to take away your salary for 6 days and say no, these 23 days only you work,
Yeah.
7 days
True.
you didn't work. I'm
True.
giving you salary every day, come and work every day. You know, if mutton making is once in a week story, make it twice in a week story. We will know where we are catching the problem. Otherwise,
Right.
will we never know? And we had a classic example of a Gora running, this hotel that I was working in, Western Mumbai Garden City. When
Hmm.
I reached in, it was the food cost was 33%, right? An Italian chef in an Italian restaurant is procuring everything from my in-house store on the first of every month, including chicken, which means he's getting fresh chicken and he's freezing it. So on the 23rd of every month, when we are starting to take the food cost because that's the last week, right? He's starting to understand. Okay, so now by 29th, when the store thing happens, oh, there is still 30 kgs chicken left. What do I do with it?
Yeah.
I said, I mean, in Italy, you guys don't get trained in all of these things, or how does
Yeah.
it work? So it just upset me because you're doing three murders at one time. One is you're giving unfresh food to your consumer who's paying a bomb, right? The second thing you're doing is that you're not helping your colleagues to understand what really food cost means because you've already hoarded everything and just releasing what is required. So that's not
Yeah.
going to help you, right? It's a daily thing. You get fresh, you give fresh. If something is gone over, it's gone over. You say I'm not available. So
Yeah.
so those things really, if you start looking at a business on your daily production, on your wastages, and on your upcoming week and how it's going to pan out. If these three things are always in your mind and always on your data, then it's going to be very difficult for you to lose money.
Yeah. Do you think a lot of it boils down to just using common sense sometimes, or not using it?
125%.
And do schools that these people graduate from, and this is not the general comment, right? Is understanding operations and using data a part of the curriculum?
No, that's the saddest part. Forget data. They don't even know the right way of calculating food cost because we still are taught USHA, which is Uniform System of Hotel Accounting. Uh, that was used when I was जब मैं छोटा बच्चा था, बड़ी शरारत करता था. That time.
Talk about memorable ads, huh?
Yeah. Right.
Awesome. Okay. So I know I'm cognizant of the time. I have one question that I think a lot of people have pinged us about, and that's around social media analytics, data
Yeah.
that comes from the channels that you're running your business on or advertising your business on.
Hmm.
Instagram, I think, is one of the most popular one, followed by Facebook. Uh, are you using that data in any sort of way?
Right. So uh, this is again a multi-pronged question that you asked, and I think some of the smaller restaurant owners might find it difficult to, kind of equate this understanding. Uh, in today's day and age, I can confidently say is that restaurants are made or make or break on Instagram.
Mhm.
Um, a lot of restaurants that I've seen who their product is very good, but they're not accessible, only became what they became is because of social media.
Yeah.
Talking about a restaurant called Mask, for example, right? If Mask had to be in a place where it was, right, and marketing wasn't happening in the aspect of what it was, who would know Mask,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I don't know if you've ever been to Mask, but you cannot even find that gully in which where Mask is.
Yeah.
Previously, this was a thing where restaurants were always, say location, location, location. Now
Yeah.
it's not. Now suddenly that thing is gone because location doesn't matter. People will find me on Google Maps if I'm good, if I'm Instagrammable, if I'm fine,
Right.
if I'm doing something static. So I think today it's not about good food, great food. It's about good looking food and great reviews, right? Now, I run my restaurants differently. So I use the tool for the understanding of it as well. That people need to know my restaurant. Yes, they need to know what is happening, which means that what new is happening, what Instagram is happening. But at
Right.
the same point of time, if my product is not going to speak the same language that I'm talking about in on Instagram, I don't think I'm doing my job right. And for me, integrity of that is important.
Yeah, and some place like Mask, for example, from Chef Sadhu, now it's Chef Totlani. They've enjoyed their patronage consistently, right? And
Right,
it's some place you would go for an occasion, but I know people who go there every other week because they just love that place. So good looking food and everything Instagrammable will get you in the door, but it might not bring you back. So I think that
right.
experience, and at the end of the day, uh, what you're paying for matters a lot. Okay, great.
Right. So just on that, a lot of people ask me, a lot of restaurant owners that I work with, that let's have Chef Ajay Chopra name, attached to the restaurant. And I'm very wary of that fact. And not all restaurants should have my name. It's because of two reasons. One is that somebody may not respect, the name, and they can do whatever they want to, and then
Right.
the product will speak. The other part of life is that Chef Ajay Chopra के नाम पे आदमी एक बार आ जाएगा, PR Chef का restaurant.
Yeah.
Once he will come,
Yeah.
right? But if the product is not speaking and resembling with the name, then second time they're not going to come. So it's
That's
very important that the same thought process, just relating it to what Pratik established, Varun took on, and started to do much more. I
right.
think that's the story that each restaurant must look at. That every day is a new day. We need to grow in our own capacity every day.
Absolutely. Okay, fantastic. So one last question that I have, and this has been an absolute masterclass in using data in your business. What emerging trends are you seeing in restaurant analytics specifically for the coming year?
So very honestly, I'm not the person who's into the news seeking what data is coming. Actually, it's people like you who help us in understanding, to understand what happens. So that question really intrigued me. That if we are sending to people who don't even eat desserts, why do we need to send the data to them? And I was like, there's so many activities like these that we do which don't make any effect. So I think what you said the other day, I'm going to repeat it for everybody else. We were, for everybody else, Ketan and I were talking about some data piece, and he came up with a brilliant idea that we will siphon out the people. If you're launching a new dessert, only the people who've eaten dessert in the restaurant will get a notification that, hey, a new dessert is launched, please come and have it. A, it saves cost for you, and B, it gives you a targeted approach. So I think something like this, where data was a word which was given to a lot of people. Now, masterclass like these, and there are many more which I'm hearing and seeing. I think the next trend is for people to catch on to this and really take the data train to help them reach to the optimization on their businesses. So I think the next few years, a lot of people are going to get onto this bandwagon. A
Right.
lot of software companies are already working on, and sorry.
No problem.
So a lot of software companies are already, taking these data as such into mind and integrating them into their own software. So I was talking to the Posist guys, and they always come back and ask these questions from the industry. What other things can we help you with?
Right.
What other data points can we help you with? So I think this data funneling and making it more precise is what I see as the newer trend which people want to catch on to.
So help people ask the right questions, basically.
Right.
Awesome. Fantastic. Sir, this has been an absolute delight. I have a lot of questions. A lot of these we have answered, but there's one question that we didn't touch upon. It's by Azhar. He's asking for recommendations on software for managing inventory that also integrates with Paid Puja, who's a partner, by the way, for us. Do you have any recommendations or guidelines on what they should look for in an inventory management software?
See, an inventory management software is to be as simple as this. If your chef can write the recipe in an Excel sheet, and that Excel sheet can be directly transported into the system, I think that software will win. Because the biggest
Hmm.
challenge that I have seen is that वो Excel sheet से वो software में जाती नहीं, वो जाती नहीं है तो food cost बराबर आती नहीं. So it is the input output story.
Right.
But I think Pet Puja has figured that out. An Excel sheet can be transported directly to the system. It will, take that as a CSV or some sheet, and that will translate directly to the data. If that is happening, I think that is the best thing to do. So Pet Puja definitely is one of them. Uh, uh, I use POSIS in a lot of restaurants, but POSIS still is working on something like this. They are not able to directly transport into the system. Um, I'm not sure of any other who directly does that. But I think for me, the key point is this, because data management can only happen if the data is correct. The data is going to be only for the sales figures कि आपका बटर चिकन कितना बिका, आपका दाल मखनी कितना बिका. But उसके बाद bifurcation recipe के according ही होगी. Recipe becomes a pivotal tool. If that is not in the system, then the data cannot do anything to thrash out anything out of that. So
Absolutely.
that for me is back of the house. In the front of the house, obviously, to understand, if your consumer behavior is being targeted correctly, because again, they was how good was this meal? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That doesn't really,
Yeah.
kind of put a pin on how your experience was. It has to be a
Right.
little more detailed. As
Right.
somebody saying Showman does a good job, maybe I can learn Showman. I've never worked with Showman.
Oh, that's fantastic. Awesome. Yeah, I mean, just to round that off, yeah, your dish is rated 5/4 out of a scale of 5, 5 being the highest. But what about that dish made you rate 4 or rate 1? I get it. Thank you so much, sir. But before I let you go, I have a couple of rapid fire questions that I want to ask you. Um,
Fire.
yeah, ready? Okay. Which is your favorite restaurant in the whole world to eat, and what do you like there?
My God, that's a very difficult question for a chef. Um, well, I don't know. I mean, I keep eating out a lot, and both me and my wife and our family loves this restaurant in Mumbai called Yaocha. So we
Love
can
it.
go there anytime, anyhow, anywhere.
Yeah. They
If
do.
Mr. Aditya Birla is listening, then please.
No, the Yaucha works with us too, but yeah, I completely hear what you're saying. Fantastic place. And who would you like to hear from on this show?
Wow, I think I would, love to hear Mr. Ravi. Ravi Wazir. He writes a lot on restaurant.
Did he not write a book just now?
He did.
Yes.
But I think a lot of us who have very little time to read books
Yeah.
must have time to hear on the go podcasts like these, which can be nuggets which you can hear from. I would love to have some hoteliers give their aspects, because being a hotelier and a restaurateur, I've understood that they live in a different world. They don't even know what is happening in a restaurant. So,
Right.
they can share their part of life. And somebody like maybe, a great artisan like Chef Pratik or Chef Varun Totlani, to understand how do they deal with data in a very fine dine kind of setup.
Nice. That's a very, very good suggestion. We're going to work on it, and if that works out, we know who to thank.